Hello and welcome to My Game Shelf. Today we're going to take a look at another title that I developed called Rebel Mars, The Great Martian War of 2170, a strategy game of planetary war. And this one takes place almost 200 years from now when Mars has been being terraformed. In many ways it's more like Earth than it is Mars today. The people and governments of Mars are revolting against the Earth control, and we have ourselves a global war. It's a grand strategy game set in the far future. I made a prototype copy of this and play tested. Didn't write up a full manual, so it does need a little bit more work, but it's one I think worth developing further. So let's get inside and take a look. Okay, here. So we have the board, and it is a fold-out board, folds out in sections, just like this. A glossy cover, glossy graphics on it, and the graphics display the planet Mars as it would look if it was more like Earth. If terraforming was done to warm the temperature up, melt the ice and the frozen water under the surface, giving it more of an Earth-like climate. I used a lot of scientific research to come up with this. This is not just something I invented or made up myself. We have up here the northern polar ice cap, and we have all these, one major global continent. So when you go off the edge of board here, you arrive here and vice versa. You see here the still desert dry areas haven't fully become fully with vegetation on them. Other areas which are more tropical have vegetation, and so northern areas you have the features on Mars which are well known, like the Tharsis Ridge volcanoes. You have the Great Canyon that's on Mars, Valles Marineris, which is now filled with water. You have this great crater sea, now the Hellas Sea, and other bodies of water. And the entire globe is broken into regions, which you see with the yellow lines, and most of them have names, not all. And across the surface we have major population centers with tram lines or underground monorail lines connecting all the great cities and population centers of Mars. Here we have a port center. We even have something up on the North Pole, a couple of those up there. And the map also shows sites where energy is gathered for the population, and the starting positions. These colored squares represent the starting positions of the forces in the game, where you begin the game. Also shows kinds of terrain. Here we have forested areas and that sort of thing. So this whole thing is the map of Mars, and the game takes place on this surface. Now, the game is a card-based game, and you use a deck of cards to play the game. And so there are different kinds of cards. There are event cards, such as this, and each person draws cards and plays cards each turn from their hand. Here's an event card called Spreading Revolt. So this takes place during the reinforcement phase of the game. We have a card for the Mars Defense Forces, because you have two sides. You have Mars Defense Forces and you have Earth Force, but then there are two other minor forces that play along. So you could have 4 players in this game if you wanted to. And on the sample card, you see that the player will get 2 reinforcements and can take 2 actions. So that's what the cards are for. Here, the person gets 2 reinforcements and take 1 action. Here's 3 reinforcements and 2 actions. And then, of course, there's the New Dawn Army, which is just the rebels, not the Mars government forces. And so you could have 2 players playing both Mars factions and 1 player playing both Earth factions, or you could have 4 players. In that case, they have a symbol and they have similar things. So players draw these cards, and then those particular forces can move. Here is the colonial forces and their reinforcements and movements, that sort of thing. And then you have the Imperial Huscarls, which are an elite group of forces acting as a 4th faction on the side of Earth. And they, too, have cards that tell them what to play. And the event cards and the movement cards, etc., are mixed in on the deck. So you can see, for example, here's an event, Disable Terraformer. So there's all these events that can happen during the game that players play that can change the course of events. So you don't do anything without playing a card, drawing a card, and when you do, you use these little pieces. Now, these are all colored for each faction has their own color, and they're placed on the board, and they move from region to region, trying to take over certain areas to win the global war. Each side has the terraformers are placed. These are terraformer markers that are placed in certain regions that are very important to the survival of people on the planet. And then when you're trying to cut off communications of the enemy, for example, you try to destroy a monorail line. So you will then, one of your actions you'll take will be to do that. And there's red circles on there that show you where you can place if you succeed in destroying that, severing that connection between, for example, New Britain here and Port Hill right here. So now any forces here would be cut off from the rest of the population, which makes them weaker. So this is how you sever communications and cut off supplies. The game comes with dice, different colored dice, and each dice represents the faction. And there are stickers that will be put on those dice when you buy the game, and they each have a different symbol on them representing different actions that will be taken during the game for that faction when the die are rolled. There are also little pieces here representing headquarters. So the main Mars headquarters, for example, would go here, and the Earth Force headquarters would say, I'm just pulling something out here of the hat, go there. These are the main headquarters for those sides. Okay, so those are placed. And then we have the intriguing pyramids of Mars on the map, which are very important to the entire planet, high technology as well as the terraforming. And that marker is placed right here, where it shows Cydonia. That's a very important region, one of the most important regions on the map that you have to hold by the end of the game. So this game basically plays a sort of abstract strategy regional control game using cards to determine what each player does, and they can choose between moving or getting reinforcements, or playing an event card, or discarding and trying to draw another card. And so it's a very simple game. It's not meant to be complex. There are different phases. There's if you look, this is what I did for my manual. I was just beginning to type this thing up. It'll show you basically the components you get in the game, how you basically play the game, the different alliances. Here we have the Mars Alliance with the Mars Defense Force, Mars First, the Solar League with Colonial Forces and Huscarls, and how to set up the game to get going, and then how rounds and turns are played, and all about Colonial Huscarl reinforcements, limited reinforcement stockpiles, and the battle phase, so when you conduct battle. And then we have what the faces of the dice mean: a flee result, a hit result, a command result, and then drawing your cards phase. So then you draw your cards, and then it shows how you play a movement card, the armies, how you'll form armies, and the movement card. So I just kind of wrote up the basic rules here to get started to test play the game, and that's where it's at right now. The game also has interesting. This is where you will move the different phases in the game. So here you'll have first the reinforcement phase, then the movement phase, the battle phase, and the draw card phase. And each turn, this is a full turn when you go through all of these different phases. Each side has their own pool right here, where forces are put aside and they can be brought back into the game later. The Solar Empire has their pool, and the Mars Rebellion has their pool. And so it's a game for regional control, using with important resources and locations that you need to capture and hold or destroy on the planet Mars. It's basically World War III on Mars, and this was the concept. It was meant to be a fun, but a little detailed, but more abstract, so that the details don't get in the way of fast play and having fun. And that was my purpose in creating this game. I always thought it'd be great to have a global war on another planet. And I thought, well, what planet could I do that people would even know? And Mars seemed to be the logical place. So I set it about 100 plus years in the future, and I think it comes off very well. So if anybody's interested in this game and perhaps even seeing it develop further, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. It's meant for anywhere from 2 to 4 players, and it's a good game. And it's one I would like to continue pursuing and see this one actually get sold. So if you have any questions or requests or ideas, please let me know in the comments section, and I'll be glad to answer you. I'll talk to you again next time.